G'day everyone, Diesel here from Getting Around Oz, camper trailer travelling. Thanks for joining us today. Now this video I put together in the last couple of days. It was initially planned, but there's been a lot of questions about the Robson, what it's been like and what is it like for a family and those types of things. Now, we've done quite a bit of travelling this thing. We've been, from the bottom of WA to the top. We've been across the Nullarbor half a dozen times, down the bottom of South Australia, New South Wales, up Queensland, across the Territory. We've experienced probably most situations you're likely to come across, whether it's terrain, weather, location, whatever it is. I reckon now, after 3.5 years of having this thing and giving it a hiding, to be honest with you, I feel like we're in a pretty good position to give you some feedback on it. It might surprise you, but I'm going to try and go through as much as I can for you. There is some things that you may not find today, but I'd love to hear them in the comments. But also, there may be things that I've missed that will be definitely covered off in other videos that we've done already. This is the 3.5 year review of our 2019 MDC Robson XTT. After the 2019 model, there was some improvements and modifications made, through the year. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go through essentially how this thing is held up, what's broke, what's not broke, the pros and the cons, how we found, different things, a lot of functionality sort of stuff as well. And then at the end, we'll actually go through our thoughts and opinions and, an actual summary of how we found it as well. I hope this one's going to be really helpful for you. But for the moment, grab yourself a drink like I have here, make yourself comfortable. Let's get into it. Cheers.
But when it comes to washing, grab a million pairs.
Have that out before flooding rain comes in there somehow. Oops, that's what's happened. That's a boat. Completely lost into the trailer plug as well, so well, that's just come off. It's like it's hasn't broken, it's still too crazy, but so I'll start with the running gear here, and apologies I didn't wear my sunnies, it's seriously bright here, but a quick summary is everything here has been fine. Now this is the ARC 750 series jockey wheel. Now I don't believe this comes with the trailer, but I had it when we got it. It's been fine, so if you're ever sort of considering one of these, I recommend it. The functionality is great. It gives you options, so whether you're on uneven ground or whatever the scenario is, this one here had us covered 99% of the times. The other time was that other 1% is when it got stuck, it got bogged. So if you're camping on the beach, for example, chuck a Max Trax or something like that under there, so it saves it sinking down. But everything else here, the DO35 hitch has been faultless, no worries at all there. All the chains, the trailer breakaway hasn't ever given us any problems. It does work, we test it from time to time. The handbrake still works, and all the cables here have been fine. And some plug we had to replace because it came out somewhere, likely because I didn't put it on properly, and same with the trailer plug here. We've swapped this one over a few times, but it's not because of anything to do with this, it's just because of misuse or four-wheel drive and those types of things. The front end here is, again, causes no issues at all. Now, these two front spots here, these are for the jerry cans, and they've always done their job. These front guards here, we've had lots of rocks, different things have hit it, and there's been no dramas there. The gas compartment here with the 2 gas bottles in there, never had any problems. Don't ever get any dust in there either, so if you wanted to perhaps store some things like, I think when we picked it up, I had a bit of a floor mat in there. That was all fine. Now we did lose the reflectors here somewhere, not surprised, but they've come unstuck. We haven't bothered re-sticking them, but other than that, no, everything else has, been completely fine up here. Now, the doors all around the camper have never caused us a problem. They've always locked and always functioned. These things here have always kept the dirt and anything else in there. Slides have always been fine, but a tip for you, if you're down the beach, make sure you don't leave this open, because unfortunately we have got some sand in there, but it all functions fine. The 12 volt adapters there, they've always worked. The lights in here as well, they've always worked. Make sure I turn that off. Same this side here. Drawers have always, performed or functioned without any bloody issues at all. This side here, you got the 2 water tank spots here. You got one here and one back there. They've always opened without any problems. The shower again, that's always functioned without any issues at all. What I will say is, and I'll chuck up a quick shot now what the shower's like. Whenever you're using the shower out in the open, the water pressure and all that sort of stuff is fine. But if you're looking to use the tent itself, the weather is perfect, it'll be great. But if there's any sort of wind at all, the shower tent isn't that great. Like when we were away last time in south of Froy, we just ended up taking the tent down and just doing it out in the open, because unfortunately, like, you can peg it down, but the shower tent material itself is so bloody thin, it just sticks on you basically. And obviously using it as a throne room, if you like, same sort of thing there. You're just sitting there in the can and it's just blowing all over you. It's a bloody nightmare. But again, the weather's perfect. It's, it does the job. It performs, really well. But if it's windy, not the best idea. I have seen a lot of people sort of fix shower tents and those types of things. So for us, we've got one on the car. I've actually got a longer shower line, sorry. I pull the car up here. I use a tent on the roof rack in the car with the extension. It's like a 2 meter shower hose, sorry. Cost me about maybe 20, 30 bucks from Bunnings. Hook it up there, run it out there, and off you go, no worries at all. But yeah, people have used, fitted different sort of shower tents onto the boat rack here. Again, the Robson page there, you'll find a lot of different designs there if you search that one up. Now, all this stuff here structurally has been very good. Like all these struts here, the gas struts, I've never had any issues at all. This is the plug from the solar panel that plugs in down here. That's the same one, that it came with. I never had any issues at all. For me, I just sort of wrap it around there a little bit like this and just unplug it when I need to. Now, tyres. We haven't had to change out a tyre yet. We haven't had a blowout, which I'm pretty happy about, to be honest. The 2 tyres back here are the 2 tyres that are most worn. They could be used, but the suspension has always been really good. Now, that's keeping in mind, we've got this big pole here, that one there, which is adding, maybe 50 kilos at least to the suspension. Now, we've kept the surfacing up on the camper trailer and they never found anything. Obviously, we get a wheel alignment done as well, and only problem we've had, and you can see the wear here on this one here, sort of down this side, and a bit of scalloping, and it's the same on the other tyre there. Now, what we found is around every 10,000 Ks or so, which is when you recommended to get it serviced, is either 10,000 Ks or a year, the camber has been the problem now. So what that means is, so say this is the view from, all right, you're looking at the camper trailer from the back, the tyres are vertical like that. So what the tyre does, it starts going a bit of a lean out like that. When it's doing that, then that's when the rubbing sort of happens on here. And that one there, we changed over when we were in Queensland. I think it was Cloncurry is where we changed it, and we end up getting to Darwin from there before we managed to get a mechanic to look at it, because we just couldn't get anyone anywhere, definitely not in Central Australia. And each time we've had someone look at and try and do a wheel mount, they've always said only out a little bit, but it was the camber was the problem. Other than that, the suspension has always been really good. If you're worrying about, like, what does a camper trailer ride like? It rides fine. Like we have it loaded up to the max. It rides fine. We don't find that we have much sway. You know, none of that sort of stuff happens when it's rough or in the sand. You know, just let your tires down and it's always, you know, ridden pretty well. And this one here, we feel like we can take it anywhere. It's not like we need to protect or anything like that. It's just wherever we need to go. We're pretty confident this is going to be able to handle it. A couple of things while I'm here. First, you can see there the water tanks, and both water tanks are fine. There's some dings here and there from rocks, but we've never had any leaks or any sort of problems. You hear of things time to time, but for us, it's never been an issue. One thing that does give me the shits, this is the gas fitting here, right? And it's always like it's just in a prick of a position, because basically this one here goes up to the, you know, the camper trailer once it opens out. So you've got this here and you can never get your bloody fingers in there. So popped out like that time, okay. So what I do is I just put it in there and I don't turn it, because if it's designed to fit in there and not come out, it does that. But it is absolute bloody nightmare to get out, and every time I'm in here, I'm always feeling around. And the other thing is, if you got the side awning in here as well, you have to get in from the back. So my tip is, take this off before you put this pole up or before you put the side awnings in there, because once you do that, you're bloody creeping in and you're bumping your head, and you're not having much fun. Now, the boat rack itself has always been pretty good. Now, it does have a maximum load of 120 kilos, so the solar panel maybe, you know, weighs 10, something like that. Now, we fitted this pole here for the fishing rods. That's a 90mm pole. On the other side for the actual tent poles, or the annex poles, sorry, that's a 150mm pole. PVC pole I got from Bunnings. All I did was sort of measure where I wanted to go through, so I just grabbed the 3 meter length and cut it back, and then I essentially got the caps and glued the caps, you know, on there, and then obviously got the screw-on caps after that, and that's always done the job there. Just painted these with black, you know, sort of paint to make them look a bit. But if you're interested in putting a tube on like I have the other side, and just remember it's 150mm lengthwise. I started with the 3 meter and cut it back, but I sort of keep it with the front of the lid here and the back of the lid, and you know, that's always done me well. This one here, I've never had any problems at all. It's pretty simple. You just turn it on like I've done here. Oops. Now we'll turn him on. So for ours, it's got the 80 litre tank on the front, the 120 litre tank on the back, and you know, they're sort of full and ready to go for our next trip. But fridge there, hot water there. There's a spare one if you want to add something else as well. All the fuses here, we've never had to use them all. Remember, we've got an AGM battery, so the voltmeter is actually handy. This one here comes fitted to know, you know, what sort of reading tells you, you know, whether you're in safety or whether you're in danger. And the amp sort of gives you an idea of what's being used. Kitchen here has always been pretty good and pretty easy to use. Like that, and then you just, out he comes. To use this one here, it's honestly like, it's that simple. There you go. The plug comes in there. The hose and the gas fitting that comes with this one as well. It's always been pretty easy to use. Open them up, it's always been fairly easy. Through all the corrugations, we never, you know, I know people can put a towel there because they worry about breaking glass, but we've never done it, never had any problems. Something about the 2019 which is not applicable to other brands is this is all open, so any type of wind, these things here blow out in a second. Now we've got a little sort of thing we got from BCF, but a lot of the newer ones actually come with a big side sort of protectors there. If you're looking at a second-hand one and you get one on it, you're on a winner. It's going to save you trouble. But if not, you can just buy the little things anyway, and they're all good. To be honest with you, they sort of give you enough power. This one here wasn't you know, that good. The ignition switch, we've never used it. We just carry a little bloody lighter ourselves. And the drawers have always been pretty good there. always nice and easy, and everything's, you know, ready to go. But all in all, the kitchen's always done really well. Never a problem trying to cook a feed. Remember, it does run off gas, so in the front there's room for 2 9-litre gas bottles. These USB ports here, they still work like they always should have. All the lights in the camper trailer, you know, you got one up here, one down there. They've always worked without any issues. Never had any problems at all. This is obviously to run 240 volt power in there. The AC charger has always performed as we need it to, so, you know, people do find some sort of charging issues at different times, whether it be from the AC charger or from the solar charger itself. The best thing I could suggest is read the manuals to make sure your settings are set up, and you obviously, with the charging, you set it depending on, you know, what type of voltage you got run into, that sort of stuff. But check your manual. That's the best a bit of advice I can get for you. Once you got it all worked out, you never need to touch it. You never need to worry about it. Now, before I move on to the inside here, structurally, this has always been very sound. Like, we've given it a hiding, honestly. We've taken it all sorts of bloody places and never really considered whether this can handle it. We knew very early on, and, you know, there was never going to be a problem. This is the sill here that, if you don't have the cover on, will get water in there. Other than that, never had a problem with dust. Only time we've had a problem with water is if we haven't used the cover. Use the cover, you'll be fine. If you're storing this like it is now, make sure you just get one of the moisture dampener things. I'll chuck up the screen now. Well, if you got one of those sitting on the floor, you won't ever have to worry about dampness inside the camper at all. And structurally, you know, this thing's been a tank and never had a problem. Even the bike rack there, we've always had 3 bikes there most of the time. Tied them on the top there. There's different ways you can tie bikes on, off different fixings and fittings and those types of things. But again, the Robson Facebook page would be the spot to check that one out. But, you know, we've loaded this thing up to buggery. We're taking it wherever we wanted to without a consideration, and this thing can handle it. So I think if you're looking for something that's can just handle whatever you're going to throw at it, you know, this for us has definitely done that job, that's for sure. So I reckon I've covered off all the outside stuff here for you now. What we're going to do now is we're going to crack this thing open. We'll have a look inside and we'll go through a few things in there for you. Okay, so this is if you're coming in here. We'll start here with the steps. Now these steps are really strong, no worries at all. That side there and that side there, sorry. They work well, they function as they're supposed to. Can get a little bit dicky when you get some dirt and sand and crap in there, but if you keep them clean, they'll operate as they're supposed to. These do get a little bit warm when you know, the sun's been on them for a while, but we got grub rugs. Putting those on there was a lifesaver because these don't do much for getting crap and sand and dirt off your feet. Whereas at least having a grub rug there, give it a bit of a clean, it means you're going to have less stuff going through. Door latches are all pretty good there, no worries with those. This one here has been like this for quite a while. This is a result of the kids trying to open this, like this one here, sorry. And over time, you know, the more they've done it, it just slowly sort of started putting wear on that. And overall, these screens all around the camper have performed really well. Like, the kids will come up and stand on that and push on it, and it's held up fine, but they're constant, you know, doing this one here. And another thing is they'll actually try and close the door just like that there, and actually sort of won't notice, and that's probably, you know, the biggest one there. But the kids, you know, you get your kids to take care of that there and that'll last forever, but that's just what it's been like for us. As you're walking in here, all the cupboards, obviously we keep all the plastics in there, and then these cupboards here, structurally, they've all been fine. We've never had any problems with any of that sort of stuff. The top here and the top there is a little bit scratched up, but that's more because of us. You know, it is shiny, but that's going to happen anyway. Just before I get into the rest of it, I will cover off the hot water system there. So that's the most dust we've had in the camper trailer. As a result, I think it normally comes in under there. There's a 14-litre hot water system. That knob goes on there to turn it on, and then all you do is you flick the switch and that actually activates it. That there is the most dust we've had in the camper trailer. and all the years we've had it and all the places we've taken it, that's the amount of dust that's come in there. We've never had to vacuum out or wipe out any dust there. Now these gaps here, they do keep the air out pretty well, I feel. Even on windy days, it didn't matter whether we were camping on the beach or out in the bush or wherever it was. Basically, we use pool noodles, just cut them in half and flip these over, and essentially they just fold down in there, and then they Velcro in on the other side there. Now once you've done that, so basically we leave these clipped up here. Again, there's no wear or any sort of issues there. It all still sort of sits as it's supposed to. One thing I will say is, obviously with this one here, so these bed straps, this broke on our last trip actually, so all the trips and camping we've done, they've held up fine, but yeah, it's finally given way there. And that's sort of why this one here sort of struggles to stay in there. But the seal, water does come in here when you're driving. So if you're driving in the rain, make sure you put the hard top on there, the plastic cover, sorry. You put the plastic cover on there, you won't get any water in it anywhere. Dust in the camper trailer itself, so whether it's these seals or the other seals, we've never had any dust in the camper trailer at all. Even the time when I broke the latch on the top of the camper trailer when we were coming through Karratha, through to Carragini, and then through to Tom Price there, and the Rio Tinto access roads there, and there was a lot of bull dust, and it was like 7 hours of corrugations effectively on red, nasty dirt. Even with my inability to close the camper trailer properly, you know, there was like a gap of that much, you know, because I couldn't close it down. Even then, I got no dust in it at all. So getting dust in here, you won't have to worry about, that's for sure. Now the beds, the basic cushions it comes with, we found for us, so the kids never complain about it, but for us, you know, me and myself being a bit on the well-built side, or cuddly if you like, these ones, I think, like these are reasonably sized mattresses, okay? I think they're maybe around 100 mil or something like that, but what we did was we got these mattress toppers here. It was Clark rubber. I forget exactly which type it was. I'll try and find out which one, and I'll chuck it on the screen there. As soon as we put those on there, there's been no problems at all. I have seen pictures of people putting mattresses in there. Only consideration you would need to make or think about is whether or not you can still close your camper on. But the mattresses and those types of things, they're fine. Yeah, there's no wear or any problems on those at all. Now for families, this one here I reckon is a fairly important thing to cover, because when we started on our lap, it was literally the bed down this end for us and the bed down that end for the kids. And you know, the kids, I mean, we're talking a couple of years ago, so a little bit smaller than they are now. They shared that fine, but there did come a time when they didn't want to share the bed. Bed down there, bed here. So if you're a family, you know, if you got 3 kids, you comfortably do a bed down there for one of them, 2 down here, you know, maybe even fit 3 kids, because this is a fairly large space. As a bed, it's fairly comfortable, you know, at least for a night or a couple of nights, and obviously kids don't normally care anyway. And then like for overnighters, for example, you know, setting up, we get everything set up here, and you know, this would be the sleeping area. So basically for us, it's bed down that end, bed there, you know, and the kids are all sorted out. So there is heaps of room. The cushions all keep pretty well. Now something does up with the cushions, like generally there's really no sort of wearing issues on any of the cushions. I know people have different experiences, but I don't know, all the camping we've done, you sort of see like a little bit of wear, a couple of spots there, and on the back one as well. But there's, I don't know, I think for everything we've done, and keep in mind, when this is like this as well, these get walked over every time someone wants to get up there. So if we're camping and, you know, our friends' kids come over and then, you know, they want to sit down and at night time or whatever and play some games, or, you know, jump on the tablets and, you know, do whatever kids do, you know, these things here all sort of hold up pretty well and nothing to complain about. This is something that does come up. So these have this little rod in there. So I think maybe all these four here, that rod has popped out. Not quite popped out there, but I know it hasn't, at least in two other ones, and it does happen. It is a thing. I'm not sure why, but that's just sort of how it goes. And in here, all the USB sockets. So there's sockets down the end there, down this end, under there. There's a power point here. All the sockets, you know, they all still work and they all do the function as they need to. So we haven't had any problems at all there. Now this little light here, as a nighttime light, especially with the kids here, it does light up pretty well. So there's, you know, different lighting options you can get, you know, to either fix the frame or hang or whatever. There's a million different ways you can do it. But if you only just to use that light there and did want to use any sort of USB sort of rechargeable ones or battery operated lights, that light there is actually really good. So this is what it looks like with a table up here. Now, a lot of people get rid of the table, and if you did get rid of the table, you would gain a massive amount of room here. I've seen people get rid of the table and actually sort of fit a, you know, a sort of slat there, a couple of slats there, and actually sort of make beds either side. So there's been a lot of different variations I've seen, but for us, we probably only maybe a handful of times, all the times we've been camping, do we actually sort of sit inside and do stuff here with the table up. We're outside people, so when we camp, we're only in here if the weather is terrible. Now, there is a back cushion there that we took off before we started our lap, and we never bothered putting it in since, because in the day, like, we're very rarely in here. And having that up there makes it harder for someone to actually climb over and jump in bed. Hey, these cushions are all, you know, pretty comfy, and, you know, if you like to sit in here or get the kids set up in here while, you know, you sit out there if it's, you know, if it's cold or the weather's crap or whatever, there's definitely options there. But you know, for us, this all functions pretty well. Under the table, it obviously goes down to the level of the chairs there, you know, so you've got about maybe that much gap there. So underneath here, we've actually got, we store two fans. So two of these ones here, so it just folds like that. So we got these from Bunnings, got two of these. These have got the 6 socket on here, and these ones here can actually sort of hang from the rafters and those types of things. I think that you can get Ryobi ones, and there's a few different brands, but if you haven't got some fans, something like this is a great option. They work well, they're not too noisy, and they don't use a lot of power either, which is pretty handy. But for storage under the table, put them in there and it's all good, and kids' toys and those types of things, it all goes in there. And something else that may be a consideration for you is, like, there's flaps in this thing everywhere. Every corner, you know, we've got one here, there's one here, down the end there, you got one on the back, and you got one on each side, and there's one here as well. It is seriously warm in here, so sleeping during the day, not real nice, to be honest with you. You wouldn't be able to do it, I don't reckon. Of a night time, like, these things cool down pretty quickly. For summer sort of stuff, if you've got a breeze, open the windows, I think you'd be fine. In the winter, it definitely gets freezing bloody cold, that's for sure. I imagine colder than it would be in a van that might have a bit of insulation. If you've got young kids or a newborn or baby or something like that, then you would absolutely need to consider that, that's for sure. Yeah, it wouldn't, if the kids were still babies or those types of things, we wouldn't be putting them in here for daytime naps and 4-degree days, that's for sure. So yeah, that would be definitely something to consider. But I reckon if you had some questions, jump on the Robson Facebook page, and there's a lot of people on there that ask the questions and have had a lot of experience doing that, so you'd be sure to find some answers there on that one. Okay, so here's a look with all the cushions gone. Now in there, all the electronics has all been fine. The chargers and all the circuitry there has all been working fine without any issues at all. The inverter, which is just there as well. Again, you know, like the charger, you got the power point there, and this is all just storage, but structurally everything in there is all okay. On this side here, got the 2 AGM batteries. Again, all the electrics and cabling, it's all been fine. The water pump, however, you can see that it is broken there on the to the base there. I don't know how long it's been like that. I only noticed that probably about 2 months ago, but that's always been fine. All the tubing from the water pump to the sinks and all the cables has all been fine. You can see there's no dust anywhere in there at all, and all looks like it, you know, it does or did the day we bought it. And then this little compartment here is obviously, that's the little slot to the outside there. We never use this one, to be honest with you. Okay, some feedback on the electronics. So the charger itself has always worked fine. We've got the 2 AGM batteries in there, so they're the 120 amp hour AGM batteries. They are the ones that came with the camper, so those ones there we are upgrading. They still work okay. Like, we obviously just did a trip away to the Ningaloo a few months ago, and we're off grid for about a week, and we relied on solar to charge. So we have got the hard panel fixed in the boat wreck there, which I think is around 100 watts or 120. You would never rely solely on that. That's just there to, you know, maybe get you out of trouble if you need it. But we got the solar blanket, so that combined with the 300 watt solar blanket that we have from Vic Off-Road, to Adam Power's the brand. The 300 watt panel with that one there combined, so you get like a piggyback adapter to run the both in there. That kept the camper trailer powered all week. So we had enough power in the sun during the day to keep it going over the night. We get up in the morning and we're down to around sort of 12.1, 12.2, at a point where it was a bit of concern, but as soon as we got the panels out, or as soon as the sun came up, it was fine. So we did a whole week there. I'm saying that because the batteries don't really hold a charge higher than sort of 12.6, 12.7 volts at the moment. So they've been like that for maybe about a year or so. So depending on who you talk to, AGM batteries do have a shorter lifespan than a lithium. Yeah, so now I've covered up structurally how this thing is held up, and it's without problem mostly, to be honest with you. Other than the things that we've broken ourselves, it's done the job. Inside, again, it's held up without any problems. Nothing's broken. The canvas itself has held up without a problem as well. There's no rips or there's no tears. None of the zips are busted or any of that sort of stuff. We haven't had to fix anything, and thankfully up to this point, you know, with all the weather conditions we've thrown at it, it's held up without a problem. Another consideration I reckon is worth making, is payload in this thing. So 1680 is the, you know, basically the tear of this thing, or, you know, without any weight at all. Mass on this one here, you can load it up to is 2.4 tonne. So that's 700 kilogram payload. Something to consider when you're looking at your, you know, your camper trailer or caravan is that doesn't include things like water tanks, okay? So, and clothes and fridges and those types of things. So this one here's got, you know, the 80 and the 120 litre water tank, so 200 litres straight off the bat, so there's 200 kilos at least, right? And then, you know, then once you got your fridge and maybe one fridge, another fridge, depending on how you're looking to do your setup, you know, there's plenty of things to consider, but the payload on this one here was really good. Something else that would definitely come up is, how does this thing hold up in the weather? Canvas flapping has definitely been a conversation, that's for sure. So when, like, we've had it in 40, 50k winds for days on end, okay? And earlier on we did experience the flapping of the canvas. Now, the camper itself, if you're not using the awning, or the annex, sorry, you will get flapping of the canvas, you know, in the wind. Now, when you're setting it up, you definitely want to try and do it as tight as you can, but you can't just do it, you know, too bloody tight, because otherwise you're going to start ripping the stitching. So on its own, you get it for sure, but once you set up the annex and the, you know, the awning and all that sort of stuff there, and start tying down your guy ropes and those types of things, and you have all that done firmly, all the flapping goes away. I guess I'm not sure if it's designed, you know, to work like that, but it kind of pulls it all tight and, you know, secures it all. So once it's all done there, the canvas flapping wasn't so much of an issue. when you got the stabilizer legs down on the all bottom, sort of four corners of the camper trailer, when it's real windy, you get a little bit of rocking. It's not much. Maybe you like that. Maybe it'll help you go to sleep, but that's probably the only thing that will sort of wake us up during the night. Camping in rain, I won't go on it too much about it today. We've definitely done a few videos where we've camped in the rain and what that was like. We've done torrential rain in Queensland a couple of times. So Harvey Bay, we got smashed. Cairns, we got smashed. We spent a few days in the rain there, and what I will say is we didn't experience any water in the camper trailer itself. There's no sort of leaks or areas that it gets in. The only problem that we had was it's like a swag, right? With the canvas, like it'll absorb the water and it'll do a lot of runoff, but it will get wet to a point where on the ends you do kind of see it does sort of seep through a little bit. So if you touch the side, like if you put your pillows or your doonas up against the side of it, then your bed linings and those types of things will get wet. If you stay off the sides, you won't have a problem. There's other options for like bed liners and plastic lining and those types of things. There's plenty of ways around it. Closing the camper up when it's wet, we've done that a couple of times as well. Not by choice, but situational things where we had to. If you're going away for a weekend, for example, we're down in Peaceful Bay a couple of years ago, and we loaded up after a night of rain. It's about a 6 or 7 hour drive home. Once we got home, opened it up, it was all fine. But what I will say is, even in the worst of the weather we can think of, with its torrential rain, super bloody windy, freezing cold, super hot, those types of things, this thing here has handled it. You've seen there's no bloody damage anywhere in this thing. It's kind of surprising, to be honest with you, but this obviously makes us really happy. Okay, now the biggest challenge I reckon you'll have, and probably maybe the biggest concern I reckon, would be setting up the annex and the awning. It definitely could be a deal breaker. It definitely could cause some arguments, and it definitely has for myself and Anita, but time-wise, like structurally, it's all held up fine. Okay, so I think the design of it's really good. There's full enclosure. There is a enclosure from the bottom, which is all supplied. We never had any problems in regards to, again, structurally, it's all held up really well. It just functions seamlessly. I do recommend considering different tent peg options. They do supply with fairly good size pegs, but you don't get sand pegs or screwing pegs or any of those types of things. But all in all, it does a really good job. If if it's windy or whatever, and you want to sort of shield off a side or another side or the front, it all does really well. Now we've got the pole set up from a few years ago, so I think now there's a lot of different ones you can get, and they sort of fix on a lot easier. For ours, fixing onto the main frame of the top there, we did this little hack there, which I'll show you now. That sort of fixed them on there. Now we did bend a couple of poles, but that was my fault. That was because I didn't have screw-in pegs to fix the awning down on the ground, with the guide ropes properly, and it flipped over. So don't take shortcuts in trying to fix your annex if it's windy. Setting it up, it can be a pain, that's for sure. Like when it's hot, it's the last thing you want to do at the end of a day. But if you're setting up to stay somewhere for a week, you can actually leave the roof of the annex on. You just flip it over onto the top of the camper, and pack it up there. And then all you have to do is get your poles out and pop them up. The pole work and that sort of stuff, I think maybe half an hour just to get the roof set up is probably fairly close to the mark. You probably could do it quicker, you probably could do it a little bit longer, but with two people, that's taking it easy. It's not difficult, it just can be a bit of a pain after a long day. But again, if you're looking to stay somewhere for a few days, a week or something, it's not a big deal. It's very common for us to be somewhere at especially if at a caravan park or something like that, and people say to us regularly, "Oh geez, you guys done already? You guys are set up quick." You know, normally they'll sort of sit around and pull up and have a cough or whatever and just watch you set up, you know, and probably laugh at you. But it's very common people say, oh, if that didn't take that long at all. Once you get in a bit of practice and you get in a mode and doing it, it's not that bad. It is very high, so you know, you might need like a small step or a small ladder to take around with you, or standing up on shares. But again, the clearance and the area is really good. So time for some final thoughts now. I believe I've covered off everything, and it's probably something I've forgotten, but I guess that just means I've talked about the things that have come to mind, and we've been asked quite a few questions over the years. Yeah, look, if I've forgotten something, let me know, chuck in the comments. I should be able to answer it for you. But I guess if I haven't brought it up, it's either something that hasn't been an issue, hasn't been a concern, or we haven't been asked about it. But final thoughts for us, for a family of 4, so our kids when we first got this were 5 and 6. You know, obviously they're a few years older now, but even now is still the right camper trailer for us. Like I said to Anita yesterday when I was talking about it, so it's like, is there anything you'd want to say or any sort of feedback you have for people? And you know, she's like, there's nothing there. It's just been the right camper trailer for us, and we sort of have no intention of selling it. Whether you're looking to use it a few times a year or regularly, like we have, and we've done, and we've had it months on end, you know, doing our lap and doing overnighters, and we've taken it everywhere without a concern or worry about, you know, damaging it or scratching it or, you know, clearance of those types of things. You know, it'll get you anywhere you wanted to go, and for us it's been great, it's been perfect. I reckon I've covered everything off there. If you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing to us and follow along. We got some more trips coming up. We've actually got the second half of our trip up to Ningaloo coming up very soon. I got this one out here at the moment. We're actually about to head off on a trip with a family, and then I've got another trip coming up another couple of weeks with a mate. We're going in the outback, so there's heaps more to come. There's heaps more plans, and again, we're here for to answer anything you need or any questions you have at any time. You know, we'll always reply to your comments, always reply to your messages, those types of things, whether it's through the channel, Facebook or Instagram, or even Messenger in the chat and those types of things. Whatever works for you. Any questions you have, jump on there, or you know, again, you know, you want to support us, we have a Patreon option there as well, which is like a membership sort of thing. So that I'll just chuck in the description for that one there. But hope this was helpful for you, but if not, you know, let us know, and we'll try and get something covered off for you. But I reckon I'll wrap him up here now. I'm Diesel for Getting Around Knowledge, camper trailer traveling. We'll see you next week. Hooroo.